Praise the Lord, the viewers of the Crusoe podcast. I believe this is episode 5 or 6, either or. It's somewhere in there. And today we're joined by a good friend of mine by the Cade Church. And today we want to talk about the young adult ministry. As young ministers, there's a lot of things that we could talk about, bring perspective, and kind of just allow you guys some insight into our minds. And so, Brother Cade, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello, my name's Cade Church. I'm from Toronto, Canada. Currently living in Kerman, California. Interning at Pastor Jonathan Sanders' church. Just finished 4 years of Bible school at Christian Life College. Me and Cole were roommates for his senior year, my junior year, and I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah. And you'd like to name drop? Obviously, he wants to feel the need to name drop who his pastor is and who he's interning for. That's cool. But it was awesome. I got to really minister and pour into Brother Cade while we were roommates. He needed a lot of guidance and wisdom.
I'd say Cole's my first pastor.
Yeah.
He'll always be my pastor.
Yep. Amen. Well, all jokes aside, I do want to turn to the book of 1 Timothy. And I want to turn to chapter 4 and verse 12. And this is kind of one of the scriptures that we're going to build today off of Brother Cade. And it says, "Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers, in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith." So, in essence, I think that, it's important for us as young ministers to be an example. I think we do have a place in the church. And then in Acts chapter 2 and 17, it says, actually, it's not 17, it's 12. Let me find that real quick. I'm not even in the right. There it goes. And it says, "And it shall come to pass in the last days, saith God, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. And your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams." And so I believe there's a call of God in our life as a young man. There's a place for us in our younger days. And so as a young minister, Cade, you were a student body president last year at Christian Life College. And so just if you wouldn't mind just giving us a little bit of what that was like for you, what was ministering like as a young guy. And for me, obviously, as a young adult pastor, there's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of retaliation, a lot because of our age. So
Right.
kind of how you approached it.
Yeah. Ministering at CLC is a little bit different because you're not really ministering to the saints of the church. You're ministering to your fellow students, your peers. And in a sense, you kind of can get that elder status as an upperclassman or a senior. You become the elder, of the student body. And so, but it's a different dynamic when you go into an actual church setting. And I think that's one thing I'm been very interested in learning about and growing and wanting to better myself in, because Christian Life College, it's great. You get awesome ministerial experience. You get to preach, teach, pray, all that good stuff, but it's only to your peers.
Yeah.
And it's different. Me ministering to you and you ministering to me versus me ministering to a 50-year-old, works a full-time job, has a family, and we have totally different perspectives of life and what we're doing, what's going on. And so it's
true.
It's a dynamic I'm getting immersed into. I would not say I have a lot of experience in, but it's something I'm getting more familiar. And First Timothy is Paul's letter to Timothy, and it's a young man who's entering into the ministry. He's not, under training anymore. He's not under Paul's shadow. He's going to be that guy to wherever he is. And so Paul is telling him, let no man despise thy youth.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think one thing sometimes we take that as, and I've heard it preached this way: don't let anyone tell you you're a youth and you can't be used by God. Don't let anyone put you down because you're a youth. You can be used by God, and God can do great things in you. And I believe that to a certain extent that is true, but I don't think that's what Paul is talking about there. I think what Paul is saying is, don't let the way you live your life be an excuse for people to despise you. And if I live my life as a minister, but as a youth who's maybe immature and not carrying themselves well and being responsible, and I can give those that I'm ministering to an opportunity to despise me.
Yeah.
And so he's saying, Timothy, you carry yourself in a way that where your example and your lifestyle, people can't look down upon your age because you carry yourself higher or you live up to a high standard of life. And you carry yourself not like an average 20-year-old that maybe just doesn't have their life together, isn't serious about the things of God, doesn't take responsibility. And so I think it's important, and I'll let you chime in after this, is as young men, we have to, who want to be in ministry, we have to live a high standard of life from a very young age. We don't get to sow our wild oats, you may say, and just kind of do what we want. But if we want to be taken seriously, we have to live accordingly.
Yeah, I agree. Especially kind of in the context of Timothy. Like after kind of listening to what you said, kind of thoughts that are in my mind are like, you don't want anyone to despise your age.
Mhm.
Because I mean, I felt called by God when I was like 5, 6 years old. My parents gracefully brought us to church, me and my brother. And I mean, I got the Holy Ghost when I was 7. And I would see ministers come by, and I would always just have this thought in my mind, like, when I get older, I want to be like them.
Yeah.
And there was always these drawings. There was always this connection to ministry. And so when you talk about Timothy, it's almost to me, you're exactly right, but it's also don't be afraid
Right.
to be in ministry.
Yeah.
Like don't let your age despise you, because it's easy for us young ministers to be like, oh man, maybe when I'm 20,
Yeah.
or maybe when I'm 25, or maybe when I'm 30.
Yeah.
And I think about the story of David, and Pastor Lopez taught us this, is that there's a moment when God calls you and God anoints you, and that's important.
Mhm.
But there's also a time when the people anoint you.
Yeah.
And so when you live right, and you, like you said, I totally agree. I mean, you've probably dealt with the same kind of thoughts and the same criticism that I have. It's like, why do you live that way? Or why don't you go to parties? Or come on, you're of age. Why don't you just drink a little? Jesus drank wine. Or why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And like you said, we are upholding ourselves to a standard
Yeah.
that many others may not think is appropriate for our age. But we cannot deny what we felt in prayer. We can't deny what we have been felt called to do.
Yeah.
And those are things that we live with in consideration. And there's a lot of struggles within that because we're so young and
Yeah.
we don't have the experience as an elder.
Yeah.
But we're trying to live to the same expectation as that elder,
Right.
which I don't think is wrong. I think we need to live up to that expectation.
Mhm.
But we need a little bit more grace because we're not so used to living to that standard, but we're trying.
Yeah.
And so I think that us feeling that call to ministry,
Yeah.
us feeling that call from God, I want to live up to such a standard that it's not just that God's anointing me,
Yeah.
but the people are anointing me as well.
Yeah.
I want to get to the place where it's not that God anointed me or Samuel anointed David to be king at 12 years old. But the Bible says that David grew in stature and in wisdom and favor with the people.
Mhm.
And when he was 33, the people were like, "Hey, we trust this man to be king."
Yeah.
And so, as a young minister, I don't take it for granted when I get the opportunity to preach or to speak or to serve. But I want to earn favor with them because I love them. And there's a point where I want to, be everything that God called me to be. And I can't do that without the people's favor, the people's respect.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not that we're trying to be political or I'm trying to win people over, but there is that element of, I have to earn these people's respect. I'm called of God, and I believe that I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be doing these things, or I'm supposed to pastor. But like Brother Lopez told us, like if you don't have the people's respect, like you're not going to get anywhere. And I think of Rehoboam, Solomon's son, just immediately thrown into power, and the people come to him and they ask him, "Hey, can you lighten the burden? Can you lighten the load?" He goes, "Okay, give me a couple of days to think about it." And he goes to the elders. "Okay, elders, what do I do?" And the elders told Rehoboam, he said, "Okay, right now you need to give these people a favorable answer because they're not loyal to you yet. They don't know you, they don't necessarily trust you, but they're asking you something. It's kind of like they're testing you to see where you're at, how you're going to respond to them. And he goes, we'll see. And then he goes to his young friends who are ambitious, power hungry friends, and they say, don't worry about those complainers. Tell them that you're going to make it harder for them and that you're going to be the one in charge and they're not going to have any say. And he loses the kingdom. And the people, yeah, he was in power and he had the position, but he did not have the respect of the people yet. And so he carried himself in a way like he'd been doing this for a while. And he did not take the time
Yeah.
to earn the favor of the people and to get right
Yeah.
with the people too. And it destroyed him. He lost not half the kingdom. I think it was 10 tribes of the kingdom. They said, we want nothing to do with this man.
Yeah.
And all that had been handed down to him, because we're not starting, for most of us, we're not starting our own thing. We're being handed what's been given to us. Like, you may take a church that's been pastored by someone else, you're taking years of what someone took to build. And it's way easier to lose that than it is to maintain that. And then, so I think that's going to be one of the greatest challenges for our generation and our people our age, is we have the passion and we feel the ability to lead people and the call of God, and we know where God wants to take us. But there was going to be that point of time, like David, where he had to gain the respect of the people and gain the favor of the people. And even Jesus did that. When he was a boy, it says that he grew in wisdom, stature, and favor with God and man. And so it's not enough for me to just have a relationship with God. Obviously, that's the priority. But I have to develop relationships with people. I also have to get to the point where the people that I'm eventually going to lead or pastor or whatever have enough trust in me, because they're trusting me with their soul. They're trusting me with their eternity. They're trusting me with their kids, with their future.
Yeah.
And I think we can misunderstand each other. I may take their hesitancy to receive my ministry as, oh, they don't believe in me, they don't like me. But it's a lot that they're entrusting me with. And I have to have the maturity to recognize, like, I know this is going to take time. And it's okay if it doesn't come overnight. But eventually, if I keep doing the right things and just being obedient to God, and loving them, that will come where they see me that way. And so they may not see me that way now, but it will come.
Yeah, bro. That Rehoboam story is powerful. And I've heard the concept, like, there's just this leadership style. Do I want to be feared or do I want to be respected?
Yeah.
And, I think that as a young minister, I don't want no one to fear me. I want to be respected. Because to be feared, it doesn't speak a lot about your character.
Right.
But when someone respects you, I mean, that kind of shows a lot of your character. And like you said, man, it takes time and to earn their respect. I mean, I heard Brother Holloway say, like, you have to really put in time. You have to make sure that, you're doing what you can do for the people. You have to put in time in prayer. Yeah. You have to put in time to reading your word. You have to put in a lot of hours into your message, because people who are older than you, people who have full-time jobs, they're working 40 hours to come listen to you.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard, man. They want to come listen to their pastor.
Yeah.
But luckily, when we have pastors like we have who believe in us and who give us opportunities, we're very, honored with that. And we want to do that with wisdom. Right. And we want to do it to the best of our ability, because I still want to help somebody.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't come overnight, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm not in it to preach. I'm not in it for anything else but other than God.
Yeah.
And I want to love Him, and I want to honor Him in everything that I do with with excellence.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that. And it's hard, man.
Yeah.
It's hard because you want to every time you preach, you want a reaction. You want there to be a move of God. And not saying that can't happen. But to kind of just be okay with just, hey, I'm coming under the ministry and under the submission of my pastor. And I'm buying into what he's doing, and I'm buying into his vision, and I'm loving his people the best way that I can.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to come in here and beat up on saints. If my pastor tells me, or God tells me, and my pastor gives me the okay to give a word that may not be as feel good, then I'm obedient to that. But as long as I'm under him,
Right.
because I want to do it with wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, being a young minister, it's a challenge to do the will of God, and to do it with all this ambition and with all of this hunger, um, but still being patient,
Right.
because it's like we're so young and we want to do it so quick and we want immediate results. Because, I could preach the same exact message as my pastor
Mhm.
and we'll get totally different results.
Yeah.
And it really is an age thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not for a young minister to be discouraged or, to be, upset about, but to understand, like, I'm in the process.
Right. Yeah.
And I'd mentioned it to you today at lunch. I was listening to a message and he had talked about the right hand of God and how the right hand of God is God's power. And it's like God's fulfillment in your life. But God can't trust you with the right hand
Mm-hmm.
if he can't trust you with the left.
Yeah.
And that left hand is like the process that you don't see. And it talks about it in Matthew 6. It says, don't let the right hand know what the left hand is doing. And there's times where you just don't understand as a young minister. Like, God, why don't my messages impact people?
Yeah.
Or why am I praying all these hours and nothing's happening? And in reality, God's just teaching you to be patient.
Yeah.
God's crafting your character. God's crafting your ministry.
Yeah.
You want this powerful ministry that the right hand has to offer. But God's got to take you through the trials. He's got to teach you meekness. He's got to teach you humility. He's got to get rid of your pride. He's got to get rid of that ego.
Yeah.
And your pastor, or your intern pastor right now, Brother Sanders, when he was
You're
here on the
your
podcast, I'm your pastor.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Brother Sanders had mentioned, it's very unwise for a young minister to preach polar opposite to his pastor's vision,
Yeah.
because the sheep know the voice of their shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go up there to preach or when I go up there to minister, I almost want to sound like my pastor. We may not say the words the same way. We have different tones and we have different styles. But man, I want to preach how he preaches.
Yeah.
There was a way that, the disciples, they imitated Jesus.
Yeah.
They followed him. They did the things that he did. They prayed the way he prayed.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they kind of matured, they started having their own individuality. They started having their own personality.
Yeah.
And as a young minister, I am so thankful for a pastor like Pastor Grogan.
Yeah.
If I could just be half the man my pastor is, I'd be a man of God. You know what I mean? And so, obviously, I want to be like him, in any way that I can.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know there's a point where God's going to honor me by submitting myself under my pastor.
Yeah.
That when it is time, God will let me step out of the shadow.
Right.
And become my own person.
Yeah.
But I'm so safe when I'm under my pastor's submission.
Yeah.
When I'm really so safe when I'm submitted. I'm so safe when I allow God to do what he wants in the left hand.
Yeah.
And, in prayer, man, thinking about this concept of, because there's a lot of times I'm frustrated with God. Like, God, why isn't this happening for me? And I realized, man, God's doing the left hand.
Mm-hmm.
And really the thought came to my mind is like, he's like, Cole, I thought you wanted my hand on your life.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know you were picky about what hand though.
Mm-hmm.
And, it really got to me, man. I'm not in it just for the right hand of God.
Yeah.
I'm not in it just for the power of God. I want God's hand on my life.
Yeah.
I don't care what hand anymore.
Yeah.
Whether that's the process, whether that's pain, whether that's brokenness, I'm in it for the long run. I'm not in it for ministry. I'm in it for God.
Yeah.
And so, that's just kind of my approach and just my thoughts of, how we operate as young ministers,
Yeah. No, absolutely. You get this vision for your life, who you think you're going to be, which you're called to be. And that is who you're called to be. I'm not negating that.
Yeah.
But so many times we neglect that process. And I like when people say God's got to build the man before he builds the ministry.
Yeah.
And so, there's like a sense of peace that comes over you when you just accept that. I'm not anything less. I'm not inferior. I'm not doing anything wrong, but I am a young man who's learning to be a man of God. I'm a young man who's learning how to minister. I'm a young man who's learning how to lead. And when others see that you're teachable, that you're humble,
Right.
that you want to learn, that's another way I feel like we'll gain that respect.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, this young person is not this ego-driven kid, hasn't experienced life, but he's very sincere. He cares about God. He cares about this church. He cares about the people.
Right.
And he wants to do his best. I think that goes such a long way in people's lives, and
People
patience.
respect that.
People
No,
respect
people respect humility,
Yeah.
like, I coach basketball right now, and there's that difference between the kid that I can teach how to do something
Yeah.
other than the kid who thinks he knows how to do it.
Yeah.
And it's funny, man. A lot of the times, those people who think that those kids who think, man, I know I could do this if coach would just put me in the game, or if the coach would just stop being on my back, or trying to teach me how to do this. You put them in the game, and you kind of just let them do what they want, and it's not long before they're 5 turnovers deep
Yeah.
and 5 breaks. There's a couple air balls.
I was that kid in basketball.
Yeah, still are. You know, but I think I relate to that because there was times, bro, that as a young man, we've probably all experienced times where like I could do that,
Yeah.
and then you utterly fail.
Yeah.
That scripture that pride cometh before the fall. We're all eventually probably going to reach that at times,
Right.
and that's okay because God can teach you.
Yeah.
But that's being submitted to the left hand.
Mm-hmm.
That's allowing God to say, hey, you know what? I didn't do everything right. And, like you said, taking the approach and letting others see that.
Mm-hmm.
Cody Marks actually preached this, and I saw it on Reel. He had said, if we weren't so afraid to show each other our scars, we'd be more relatable.
Mm-hmm.
Because we look at Thomas and say, oh, you're such a doubter. Like, I can't believe you, Thomas, you'd say that. But Jesus says, hey, I'm relatable. Look here's my scars.
Yeah.
And Jesus was not afraid to show us his imperfections.
Right.
And I think as a young minister, I don't want to try and put on this facade. I'm perfect. I've been perfect since I was a kid. Ever since God gave me the Holy Ghost, I haven't made a mistake. But no, it's okay if they see that and say, hey, you know what? I made a bunch of mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And I come before, the church with humility. I come before God with humility. And I say, hey, I made a mistake, but I'm not going to give up.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm in this because I love God.
Yeah.
And, it's so annoying when you make a mistake because you're like, bro, I could have avoided that.
Yeah.
But to do that and trying to be the best leader that I can be.
Yeah.
Because one day I know, when I get older and I'm the elder, what am I going to do?
Right.
And I want to have those years of experience to grow into a great leader. Because I want to be a leader that people can look up to.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be a leader that can really usher in God's presence.
Yeah.
More than anything, I want to be able to usher God's presence into a room.
Yeah.
And to be there for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I was reading in a book by Stan Gleason called The Unfallen Leader. And he's took over a church and he's struggling. People aren't receiving him well. They're kind of, I think it might have been wanted to split. And so it's just a lot of tension. He's very sincere. He cares about these people, but they're just not accepting him. And he did something, I can't remember, made a mistake. And he apologizes over the pulpit and said, I'm sorry I did this. And in the story, it says that one of the saints that he was having trouble with came up to him and said, today you became my pastor because you showed me that you're humble enough to admit a mistake and learn from it. And then that's what it took for him to gain the respect of those he was leading. And I think as a young person, if you want people investing into your life, you have to be teachable too. Because if I have this I know it all attitude, nobody is going to want to impart into you. Nobody's going to want to take you under your wing and help you.
Yeah.
But if you have this, man, I have this burning desire to do something for God, but I don't always know what to do and I need help. Man, people are, I think, real good men of God are drawn to that and will gladly help you wherever they can and will be there for you. And so you can never go wrong with taking the humble road and being teachable.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue to kind of what I wanted to ask you next is, the role of mentors and pastors and elders in our life.
Yeah.
Because like you said, man, I want them to be drawn to me. I want as much help as I can get.
Yeah.
And, I know, you live with me. And, a host of others who are close to me, they know, like, Cole's something. We want Cole to get as much help as he can get. And I'm just so hungry for God.
Yeah.
That I'm willing to change.
Yeah.
When I'm in his presence, I can't help but change.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can be so blind to your imperfections because they're so normal to you.
Right.
If I don't have a leader, or if I don't have a mentor, if I don't have my pastor look at me and tell me, hey, Cole, that needs to change.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm always just going to be the same.
Yeah.
And I want that. And there's an importance of having a mentor and a pastor in my life. And so if you have anything you'd want to add, anything that, a life of mentorship that you've had with somebody or.
Yeah. There's there's a verse that I was reading the other day. I'm gonna paraphrase it.
I doubt it.
can't remember it because I can't remember it. I don't memorize my Bible perfectly like Brother Cole here does.
Oh,
And it's in the Psalms, but it's
Yeah.
David, and he says like, "Let the righteous rebuke me," or something along the lines, because it produces like a sweet oil. And so there was this desire within David to have people in his life that won't just tell him what he wants to hear. Won't just tell him that, "Oh, David, you're the best. Oh, you're awesome." We all like that. If we're all real, we love it when people say, "Oh man, I just look up to you. You're the best thing ever." But that doesn't really do anything good for you. It feels good, but all it does is feed my ego that I have. But what I really want and really need is people in my life who will tell me what I don't want to hear. And for me, a lot of that has been friends, some close friends that I'll let them like, "Hey, you just say what you need to say," like, because you said, those blind spots. There's things that are totally normal to me, but when he's looking at it, he's like, "Man, that's a big issue that I don't think he sees." And I need friends that can see that, so I can be better, and so I don't miss those areas. And then pastors and leaders, I always try and uh, I want to hear the input of my pastors and my leaders and mentors. Like, how have I been doing? Where do you feel like I can improve, or what do you want me to work on? And just, I got to give them that voice though, because and especially, good humble men, they're not always going to try and force their way into your life. If you don't want it, you won't get it. But if you're that squeaky wheel, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and you make it known, like I want your help.
kind of like, Elisha with Elijah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not leaving you until you bless me.
Yeah.
And especially like with that, with leaders, with mentors, with elders, with pastors. Luckily we had such a giving pastor like Brother Ellis at our school. And if you weren't careful, there would be times, bro, I would want to ask him a question about the Bible. I want an input on something. And he'd be like, "Cole, I have no time." And he'd be like, I'd be like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "I'm going to the office." It's like a 45-second walk. And I'm like, I'll walk with you.
Yeah.
And there were times he'd be like, "Cole, I got 45 seconds to walk if you want to walk and talk."
Yeah.
And, those little moments, you have to be hungry to catch it, or else you won't get it. And like you said, obviously there's a humility in it. But me and you talked about it today. Like, Brother Sanders' podcast here was probably my hardest podcast because he wanted my input.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm dumb.
It's like, I got
Like, my brain, I don't have like input. Like, you are so much more wise and experienced than me. I would rather sit here for hours and listen to you talk.
Yeah.
Because there's a hunger in me. And I think in a lot of us young ministers, especially ones who are in ministry, there's a few people that, man, we would rather just sit at your feet all day and just listen to you talk. Not because we worship you, but because you're so willing to give input. You're so willing to teach us more. I'm a student of the word. I need a teacher.
Yeah.
And God uses those people sometimes. And so I think in my life, my pastor won't sit down and just expound on the Bible with me. That's just not his personality. But my pastor will show me how to live by example.
Right.
And if I'm not carefully watching, I'll miss it. Me and my brother Seth have talked about it countless times, bro. Like, he's such a good husband. Like, my pastor treats his wife phenomenally.
Yeah.
He's so kind to us young ministers. Like I was telling you, man, it's so weird because my fiance was, a little skeptical at first about how, intimate I was with my pastor. Like, she was like, "You go to his house like every Sunday?" Like, like, to her, pastors weren't that approachable.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm like, dude, I sleep on his couch. Like, I take naps there, like, I go over there and his daughter makes me coffee and his son's one of my best friends, and we're sitting there jumping in the pool, having a good time. He's cracking jokes, and we're just chilling there all day. And I've gotten to notice him, like, be a man.
Yeah.
Like, other than a pastor, I've watched him be a good dad.
Yeah.
I watched him be a good husband. I've watched him be like an honest, worker, like an honest person who has a job and does that with integrity, and he works hard. And so, these different men in my life, I'm intentional about watching.
Yeah.
I've had so many men sit down with me over a cup of coffee and just be kind. Brother Holloway was like sitting with me and Jason at a Cane's until 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
Brother Herring would be willing to just go grab a cup of coffee and just talk. Or Brother Ellis coming and just going and my pastor. And so, as a young minister, I think it's so important that we have more experienced people in our lives to tell us how to live.
Yeah.
Show us how to live. There's probably more things that have influenced my life and my ministry by what I saw and not what I heard.
That's so
Like
good.
what I saw.
So
When I saw Brother Ellis do this.
Yeah.
There was one time me and him were at an all-night prayer. And I ran out of things to say, bro. I was like, maybe an hour and a half in, 2 hours in, and I'm like, I have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say anymore. And I just stopped and I watched Brother Ellis. He was just kind of walking in the front. And the next day, he's like, I saw you watching me pray. And he's like, I had to show you how to do it.
Yeah.
And to me, I was like, you're right. Like, I can be honest enough to say, hey, Brother Ellis, I don't know how to pray longer than 2-3 hours. My longest all-night prayer by myself is like 3 hours. I don't know how to go 8 hours like Brother Haney.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't that he was dissing me like, dumb kid, you don't know how to pray. But he was willing to say, hey, you know what? I'll teach you.
Yeah.
And those are things that I need.
Yeah.
Because if I don't have mentors and elders in my life, like my pastor, to show me how to be a good man, a good Christian, a good husband, a good dad, if I don't have Brother Ellis to teach me how to really pray, how to really study the Word, then I'm lost.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to have to learn on my own. What I can learn now at 23 years old I'd barely learn at 38, 39, 40.
Yeah.
And I get a head start because of those men.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think to be appropriate, to be godly as an elder, you should want these young ministers to go further than you did.
Yeah.
You should want them to take the baton and say, hey, finish off.
Yeah.
Go further than I did.
Mm-hmm.
But if we get caught up in this prideful concept like, I don't want no one to pass me up, I don't want no one to be more spiritual than me, well, then we're not really reaching our world. We're building our own kingdom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But those men are so kind.
Yeah.
I know my pastor. I know Brother Ellis. I know Brother Herring. They don't want it for themselves. They truly want us to and Brother Sanders to really just go further than that. And I need those. I need those men to teach me how to do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you want to talk about mentorships in your life, or
yeah, bro, same thing. And I love how you talked about just seeing it, because not everyone, and even I didn't always have like these close friendships with like these men of God that you look up to.
Yeah.
But for a long time, it just felt like I was just looking at them, watching them, like guys like Brother Ellis and Brother Sanders, and I would just watch how they carry themselves. And I can't tell you how much I've just picked up on just the little things they do, the way they treat people. I remember I was praying for someone at Lifeline one time, and just kind of side prayer, a little support prayer, and
so you got it, buddy.
yeah. And Brother Ellis comes in, like, and this guy is kind of like not really going anywhere. I'm just supporting him. He wasn't. And then Brother Ellis comes in, just like gives his guy like the biggest bear hug. He knows him very well, and he just starts like, and this guy, like, in my mind, I'd say, oh, he's just kind of carnal, not really serious, whatever.
Wow.
But then Brother Ellis, yeah, I know. But then Brother Ellis goes, you're strong. Like you fought through so much. Like, you're going to make it. God has brought you so far. And just like the tears that start coming down this guy's face, and he just starts breaking down. And I was like, wow, I want to be able to connect with people like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened where I've made connections like that, where I knew, my approach was, I'll just go, I'll put my hand on them, pray with them like that. But then I don't always do that all the time now. But then there's times like I feel like I just picked up on, man, when someone's like really struggling internally and they need someone to like really embrace them.
And that's kind of what you talked about earlier, like building that respect with people and having that connection.
Yeah.
Because you could be a good preacher all you want, and you could pray 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
But if the people don't know you,
They
like,
don't know you, yeah.
And so that's, I thought like, well, I learned how to preach at CLC. I went through all my homiletics classes. Brother Bishop and Brother Lopez said I was okay.
Yeah.
And I prayed and I fasted, but people don't give a rat's tail.
Yeah.
They want to know, who are you?
Yeah.
They want to know, is this person relatable?
Mm-hmm.
And like it goes back to Jesus showed his scars.
Yeah.
Jesus spent time with them.
Yeah.
Jesus loved them. Jesus was there for them. And I think that's respect.
Yeah.
What Brother Ellis did is, he earned that guy's respect.
Yeah.
And they had a connection.
Mm-hmm.
And that allowed him to minister.
Yeah.
That relationship allowed him to minister, man.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
Very powerful, man. Well, one other kind of segue that I wanted to go into was kind of like the submission aspect of being a young minister.
Uh-huh.
And so what are some ways that you think, like, even you being the president of the student body, you had to submit yourself to, even to friends, even to probably Brother Elijah, who is, your VP, even now to the Sanders or to your path, because you're not even at your home church.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've submitted yourself to the will of God to go to a place that you don't even really know. And so, like, what has that submission aspect been in your life as a young minister?
Yeah, when it comes to leadership, I feel like I've been really blessed. My dad is my pastor, and Pastor Sanders right now is a voice pastor in my life. That they really do give me the liberty to make a lot of decisions, but I always give the opportunity for them to say yes or no. So if I ever get asked to go anywhere or do anything, I'll just bring it up to them. Okay, hey, how do you feel about this? Can you pray with me about it? Yes, no. And a lot of times it's been go ahead, do what you feel. If you don't feel like it, you don't have to. If you feel like it's God, go ahead, do it. But there's a temptation to me to say like, oh well, I'm just kind of doing my own thing, but I have to give those people that opportunity to submit to them, even though it may not always be okay, I'm submitting every time. I'm letting them decide, but just giving them the say in things I think is important. Then the Bible also tells us to submit ourselves one to another, to where friends, you don't have to submit to them in the sense of like they're your boss, but it's biblical to submit to them. One of the marks of wisdom, of heavenly wisdom, that the book of James tells us, is that you're willing to yield. You're willing to give someone their way. You're willing to say, hey, this isn't my way, but we'll let it go that way, because that's just a mark of humility and heavenly wisdom, the Bible says. And so with Brother Elijah, there were some times I wanted to do something, but he was over it. And so I said, hey, I'm going to let you, I know I want to do this, but I want to give you the liberty to lead, and I'm going to submit myself to you.
Yeah.
Even though necessarily in a sense, maybe position wise, I don't have to, but I want to let you do that.
Yeah.
And even with other students, I remember one time I had to make an announcement for just something random. And so this girl was about to go preach. So I said, hey, can I go up before you and, or something? Can I go up after you or something and make an announcement? And she was like, oh, yeah, but could you go before? Or could you do it? She just meant, could you do it a different way? Or how about we do it a different way? Then I was like, I don't have to say yes, but that the humble way is, yeah, I'm willing to yield. I'm willing to do it your way. And just little things like that, I've really wanted to make a habit of. I don't always have to get my way. And I think when people also see that you're not just trying to get your way and everything, when you do need to take a strong stance and say, hey, like, we do need to do it this way, they'll see you as a person who's not power hungry, who's not a control freak.
It's not this repetition of dictatorship.
Yeah, but
and they know you're serious.
The best interest of people at heart. They'll be like, yeah, let's do that. If you feel to do that, we'll do that. And so just submitting to God, submitting to my leaders, and then that horizontal submission to peers, even people that are
vertical and horizontal submission is important.
Even people that are younger than me. I want I want people to feel comfortable with me enough to the point where they can disagree with me and they can be open about it.
Yep.
And then I'm not going to rebuke them or get angry at them, but that they would know that their voice is valued. And it happened towards the end of the year. We were doing student landmark and we were going to worship. And then there were some of the guys who were going to be the leaders the next year, and they felt like we really needed to shift it. And they came and talked to me and told me, like, hey, I feel like we need to shift it. And I said, okay, like, I do feel like we do need to keep with this, what we're doing right now. But and I told them after, I was like, I know we kind of disagreed on that, but I really value you being willing to come up to me and say that, because your voice and your thoughts are valuable. And so I've always been trying to do that. I want people to feel like what they say matters,
Yeah.
what they think matters, and that if they have a point, if they have an idea or a way of doing it better than me, like, let's do it. Let's get the best option available.
Yeah. And that horizontal submission is probably one of the hardest submissions.
Yeah.
It's easy to submit to my pastor.
Yeah.
Some people it might be hard, but for me, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
When my pastor says no, I'm not just like throwing a tantrum. Like, I trust him.
Yeah.
I have so much respect for him
Yeah.
that I know and I understand there's a good reason why he said that.
Yeah.
But this horizontal submission in ministry could be, kind of the killer for a lot of young men, because you can get really offended.
Yeah.
It's hard to listen to your friends. One of the hardest things about young adult ministry is that, I'm 23 years old, and then I'm an assistant pastor to another guy who's 25, Brother Matt, and we kind of are in charge of the young adults, 18 to 25.
Yeah.
And they're the same age as us.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, I don't want to listen to this guy.
Yeah.
We asked them to come. We asked them to come and support. We asked them to pray. We asked them to kind of be a part of this. And a lot of times the answer is just like, I don't want to, or why should I?
Yeah.
And for them, it's they probably struggle too with that horizontal submission. Because it's hard. It's like, you're my friend. I've seen all your flaws. I've seen your failures.
Yeah.
But those are super important, because those are, I feel like, good tests of humility.
Oh, yeah.
If I could submit to just my brother,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good test of humility. And, being under Brother Matt, I've come to realize, like, everything he does, like, it works, and like, I have nothing bad to say about Brother Matt. I think he's approached a lot of things with wisdom. And with kindness, and his wife is one of the most gentle people you'll ever meet. Sister Talia is super gentle and super kind. But there's been certain ideas that he's had, and immediately in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'd probably do that differently. And probably for like the first few weeks, I was like, oh my gosh, like, we're probably never gonna do things my way. I'd bring it up, and he'd be like, oh man, I'm just not feeling that. But what we do it his way, it really, really worked.
Yeah.
And I had to really realize and really allowed the Lord to deal with me, like, submission and just being a support is so godly.
Yeah.
And it's so important, because when you'll really lose your opinions and you'll really just buy in, there's such a unity that comes with that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just so much more that can be done when you'll just buy in.
Yeah.
And bro, we've had tremendous success within the last year. Like, we've seen kids get the Holy Ghost. We've seen kids get baptized. We've seen kids be faithful to church. But if somewhere along the way, if I wasn't submitted and he wasn't submitted horizontally, we may have never seen any of that come to pass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we could have really struggled. We could have really just tore this youth thing right open and just been, it could have failed miserably.
Yeah.
If we didn't have that horizontal submission.
Yeah.
And so as a young minister, submitting to our friends is super important. And it's not like, oh, my friend says something, I have to do it.
Right.
But being willing to listen to them and be like, hey, I know you love me. Is there really something in me that you don't like?
Yeah.
I actually told this to my brother a few days ago, because he's always angry. He's always just angry. Nah, he's not. But, he's mentioned, like, a lot of the ways that people can tell that you have fruit in your life is because people will tell you.
Yeah.
But a lot of the way people will know that you don't have fruit in your life is they'll tell you. And like, the way that people feel around you
Yeah.
is truly like who you are.
Yeah.
Like, you may think you know who you are,
Maybe you should.
but people, when they get around you, they know. You know what I mean?
Them by their fruits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
That's so good.
yeah, man, I definitely enjoyed our conversation. I definitely think that this is a good perspective on young adults and young ministry. And we're just trying to do it with humility and with wisdom, and we're trying to get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, Brother Cade, I appreciate you, bro. I love you.
Love you, man.
You can always call me if you need pastoral advice.
Thanks, bro. I'll take you up on that.
Yeah. All right. I love you. And God bless you, Crusoe Podcast. Thank you.